In this lesson, we're going to begin coloring our line work for our 2D avatar and add some final touches to our base expression. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're at a point now where we're really happy with how our colors and values have been blended together. And if we go ahead and just zoom out, we can see how our avatar is registering visually at a small size, and I think it looks excellent. I'm really happy with how this caricature of our geeky looking guy has turned out. So now we're really ready to focus on adding some final touches, and we're going to start with the line work. Now our line work up to this point has just been black, and we'd like to color that line work at a different color. And you may have noticed this in certain animated cartoons or animated films where the line work isn't always black for the entire character. It may be different colors depending on just the overall color scheme of the character. And it just kind of helps tie everything together, just kind of package it all really nicely and visually. And so what we want to do is go over here to our layers panel, and we're going to go ahead and duplicate our line work layer. So I'm just right clicking, and we're going to come down just to where it says duplicate layer, and we'll go ahead and just call this layer line work color. Alrighty, go ahead and commit to that. And for the time being, I'll go ahead and hide the visibility of my just regular black line work. Again, I duplicated this just so I could preserve that in case I ever had to come back to that line work. So with our line work color layer clicked on here, let's go ahead and zoom in and get ready to color our line work. Now, before I begin coloring it, let's jump over here to our brush panel, and I may want to turn off transfer, and I'll go ahead and turn on shape dynamics. This way I control my brush tip as it's being applied to the canvas, and I don't really need to control the opacity and flow since I will just pretty well be filling in my line work as a solid flat color. So now what color should we use for our line work, especially around these skin areas? I'm thinking kind of maybe a darker brown. Again, I don't want it to be a stark black, but I also don't want it to blend completely into the skin. So let's go over here up to this this palette that we created a couple lessons ago, and let's try this brown first, this kind of lighter brown. And before we begin applying this, if you notice, if we just try to apply our line work, you see how that isn't looking too good at all. It's covering the line work too fat, too wide. It would take us forever to be super precise going over it, and we definitely do not want to do that. So let's go ahead and just take a couple steps back, and let's go over here to our line work color layer, and we basically want to isolate all of these pixels that make up this line work layer. So to do that, we're going to go up here where it says lock, and we're going to click on this button right here. It's a little square button that has some little squares in this inside of it. So just clicking on that, we now have everything isolated. So if I go back over this line work, we can see how we can be very cavalier in our way that we paint over our line work. Now just looking at that, that feels like it might just be a little too light. I may want to try this darker brown up here above, and I think that might work. Let's go ahead and zoom out, and I think that might work really well. Again, I don't want to lose the line work. I don't want to blend it in completely into the skin. I still want it there, but I just want to tone it down some. I don't want it to be this really stark black. So I'm just really quickly going over all these areas where I have line work around the skin. Now for the line work around the hair, I'll go ahead and leave that black just because his hair is really dark, and I don't think that would interfere in any kind of way that it reads visually. It's just coming around here on these wrinkles around the chin area. And we're going to go ahead and leave the line work black around his eyes for the time being. And I'm doing that because I'm planning on adding some lenses. And I want to see how the eyes read looking through those lenses with the black line work first. So we've got our line work colored for all these skin areas. Let's go ahead and zoom out just to see how that's reading. I'm really liking that. I'm thinking that that really just adds to just the overall visual readability of this avatar. Let's go ahead and focus on his shirt line work as well. Now the black is actually working okay for this. I may want to just try a gray color. So I'm going to go ahead and sample this gray that I've got up here in my palette. And I think that'll work well, just going over it. That'll just soften. In this lesson, we're going to begin creating an additional expression for our 2D avatar. So let's go ahead and get started. So in the previous lesson, we explored how we could color our line work for our two-dimensional avatar, and we added some final touches, such as these lenses here, for our base expression, which is basically what we've been creating these past lessons. And so zooming out, once again, we can see our base expression avatar, and it turned out great. So what we'd like to do is explore adding an additional expression and how we can do that by reusing a majority of all of this information that we've explored creating for this avatar in the previous lessons. Now, as I mentioned in that first lesson, most 2D avatars have a variety of expressions that either can be cycled through automatically or controlled by the user. Ultimately, it depends on the platform in which your avatar has been incorporated into. And so we're going to go ahead and begin creating this additional expression, and you'll notice that I've created a new folder over here in our layers panel, which I've called expression shocked. Now again, we want to reuse a lot of the information that we have in our base expression folder, and so we're going to basically merge a few things, copy some things over into our new folder. So just going down here to the bottom, the first thing I want to focus on is all of our color information that we have. Now, I want to leave all of these layers individual in my base expression folder here, just in case I ever have to come back and make any kind of modification to any one of these in the future. But for our new shocked expression, we can go ahead and merge those layers together and drop them into that folder. It's safe to do that, I think. So if we're going to make a merge copy, we want to make sure that nothing else gets included in that merge copy. So I'm unchecking the visibility of anything I don't want included. I just want to focus on this color information down here. So to make a merge copy, we're just going to hold down Shift, Control, Alt, and E, and this basically makes our merged copy layer. And so I'm just going to call this shocked color. And what we can do is basically drag this up into our expression shocked folder. If we expand that, we can see that we've got that in there. And I'm also going to want to bring over my line work. And I'm not going to really worry about the black line work. We'll leave that down in the base expression folder for the time being. And we'll bring up our line work color. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this layer. And I'm going to go ahead and just call this, I think, shocked line work might be appropriate. Very well. And I'll just go ahead and drag that up into my expression shocked folder. Alrighty. Now let's go ahead and hide the visibility of our base expression folder. We can even turn on that background if we want to. And now we're ready to really begin creating this additional expression. Now, one thing I just forgot to bring over to do this is that sketch for our shocked expression that we made way back in the first two lessons. So I'm just going to drag that layer up into our expression shocked folder, and we're going to explore how we can use that to create our additional expression. So let's go ahead and hide the visibility again of our base expression folder. And we're going to go ahead and hide the visibility of our shocked color layer, and turning on the visibility for our sketch shocked layer. So we're going to basically use this sketch of our shocked expression and use it as the blueprint to modify our line work for our new expression. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is create a little bit of contrast so I can just see what I'm doing over here on my canvas. Right now, it's really hard to tell what's going on. So on my sketch shock layer, let's go ahead and take the opacity way down. That's a lot better. Now I can tell what's going on. And so I'm looking at some different areas here of my shocked line work color that I want to modify and make it match that sketch underneath. So let's go ahead and grab our brush tool, and I'm just going to double check and see how things are looking in my brush panel. And I may want to turn on transfer for my line work. And let's go ahead and start with this entire mouth area right here. And so again, for that shocked expression, we kind of have